Her blood alcohol level was 0.14.
0.08 is
the legal limit.
drunk limit usually.
Yeah, so that's a lot of brandy.
Yeah.
Especially brandy.
Yeah.
Let's be honest here. Of the alcohols, you think, oh, I could drink a lot of that. Brandy,
Yeah, believe it or not, some people like that stuff.
maybe. I don't know. So, in addition to the brandy that they found in the site, I think it was like near her hand or something. It was unclear. It wasn't part of her knapsack findings.
Oh, okay.
They found her knapsack, and it had 2 empty juice bottles, a roll of masking tape, a Jeff Foxworthy You Might Be a Redneck cassette, a Monty Python and the Holy Grail cassette. She had a portable tape player and headphones, and the headphones were on her head over her ears, and she had been listening to a recording of comedians Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner doing their 2,000-year-old man routine.
Sir, is it true that you are 2,000 years old?
Oh, boy. Yes.
You are it's hard to believe, sir, because in the history of man, nobody's ever lived more than 167 years, as the man from Peru would claim to be. But you claim to be 2,000.
Yes, I'm not yet. I'll be 2000 October 16th. Yes.
You will be.
She wanted to have a fun time.
Yeah, it's kind of, they're all comedies.
Yeah.
She seems to kind of be trying to feel better about herself or something. So this is another, put-offy thing about this case. So they found her, the headphones were on, the tape presumably had been playing, but she'd killed herself by putting a plastic bag over her head, over the headphones, and taping it shut and suffocating herself while she listened to a comedy cassette tape.
And that's kind of a weird, difficult way to kill yourself, I would think.
I was just thinking the same thing. Putting tape around your own neck can't be easy.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I wouldn't think that'd be that hard, but actually, just laying there and suffocating without tearing the bag off your head.
Well, I think part of that is the Valium and brandy, right? I think that probably helped a little bit.
Yeah.
If she was just really, really drunk and really high on Valium, maybe she just fell asleep and just never woke up. But this is one of the things that raises some red flags for people. In this case, partnered especially with the very weird suicide note that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And we'll get to this, of course, later. Next to her, there was a clear plastic sheet on the ground, and next to the sheet, there was an 8-inch Christmas tree that was set up. It wasn't just falling on the ground. It was set up, and it had gold balls and red ribbon. And they also found a poem written on a typewriter that read, "Now I lay me down to sleep, soon to drift off to the eternal deep. And though I die and shall not wake, sleep sweeter will be than this life I forsake."
Weird.
Which starts out like the "Now I lay me down to sleep."
Yeah,
I pray the
exactly.
rest will keep. And a Google search of this phrase yields no results except for things pertaining to this case.
So she was kind of a poet then.
Maybe.
So she made this up.
Maybe, yeah.
And she had access to a typewriter.
Well, in 1996 in rural Virginia, but that's maybe not so weird.
Well, it's not weird, but when you think about it, I mean, she didn't appear to be from around the area because nobody reported her missing from the immediate area.
That's true, but nobody reported her missing from any area.
Well, she could have been reported missing from somewhere else, and they just never tied the two together. Or maybe she was never reported missing.
Yeah, and again, we'll get to more of that. But that's true. A typewriter or something. The deceased by own hand letter was also written on a typewriter. I guess it could have been a computer. I don't know.
I would say if it was done with a typewriter, they would specifically say a typewriter because a typewriter leaves an impression in paper that a printer, even an old dot matrix printer, wouldn't be able to replicate.
Yeah, they do. They specify, or some people specify, I should be clear, some people specify that the "Now I lay me down to sleep" was on a typewriter. Others don't. And nobody specifies about the deceased by own hand letter being typewritten or not, or handwritten or not.
Well, I saw some pictures of some of her personal effects, and there was a picture of the typewritten note, "Now I lay me down to sleep." I didn't see any picture of the deceased by own hand note, so I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't either. That's okay. So already it's a little weird. So let's talk about her clothes and jewelry.
Okay.
Because it's also weird. At least I think it's weird.
Let's have it.
All right. So she was wearing a teal all-weather Eddie Bauer hooded jacket, which was sized medium. These are important, by the way, size medium. She was wearing a navy blue sweater, sized large, a red sweater, sized extra large, a red sleeveless silk shirt, sized petite large, a navy blue knit wool pants, sized large, black loafers, sized medium. And all of those clothes are clothes that you would find at like an upscale, kind of like Saks Fifth Avenue is what they've been tossing around.
Yeah, or you might find them also at a Goodwill, because you'll find lots of new clothes at Goodwill. And the thing about the Goodwill is you'll find something really cool that you like, but it's never in your size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't it that all of them were, you said they came from like Saks Fifth Ave or something, so, and they were all nicer brands?
Yeah.
Or were they all the same brand, basically?
Yeah, except for the Eddie Bauer jacket. Everything was kind of the same size.
Okay.
The same size.
I'm sorry, the same brand.
Got it. Okay.
But they're all weird sizes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's something that piques a lot of people's interests. And I know, Joe, you had expressed some interest in this, that where do you get these things? You get them from the Saks Fifth Avenue, you get them firsthand, or you get them at Goodwill, right?
Yeah.
People talk about the brand being indicative of her being more well off.
Mm-hmm.
But other people talk about maybe she just had a thing for this brand and got them all at.
I never saw anything in the reading, in the research, that talked about the condition of the clothes. Did you ever come across anything like that?
No.
Because that would be something to me. I would wonder if they're in really good condition. That would indicate she bought them new. Mm-hmm. If they weren't in the best of condition or a little threadbare in spots, that would say that she bought them at a secondhand store.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that this has never come out.
Yeah. Although, you know, I've found stuff at Goodwill and stuff that looked almost new.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you find stuff there that somebody gets for their present, or they buy it and they never wear it and they finally get rid of it. So
That's true.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible. But
That's definitely true. So she also has some jewelry. There was a small gold watch that she was wearing as a Guess watch, which isn't cheap. I mean, you know, it's not like the most luxurious of brands, but those watches are like a couple $100 usually.
Well, in '96,
especially
Guess was still
in 96,
really popular.
Yeah, and a 14-karat gold ring that had 4 jade stones in it.
Mm-hmm.
She also had a metal bead chain with a medic alert. You know, those medical alert tags or whatever. And it said no code, DNR, no penicillin. So another thing that people are talking about, right, is that she's a Jane Doe, but often you can trace these things, these medical tags.
That's yeah. Are they actually numbered?
They're not. You can order them from wherever you want. Especially like when we're getting into the 90s, you just order like a dog tag with whatever on it. They're not. There's no medical issuance of these things.
You might actually be able to find one at the Goodwill.
You probably could. Yeah. So, you know,
shouldn't be laughing.
Well, no, I mean, it is. You could get all these things at the Goodwill, probably, but you also might get them because you're well off and you like spending money. So this is another part of the mystery, right? Is that either she's a well-off older woman, or she's like kind of a vagrant, transient kind of person who just got a bunch of stuff at the Goodwill.
Including a typewriter, because
including a typewriter.
If you're a transient, right. How exactly do you get access to a typewiter and paper to
the library?
You think?
No, I don't.
No,
I don't.
I do like the look on your face, though.
Really?
I can see Joe go, I gotta go to the library. I haven't been there in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen a typewriter in a while. It'd be kind of cool to see one again.
Yeah. Well, we do live in Portland, Oregon, so it shouldn't be that hard.
They are everywhere.
Yeah.
You will find them.
So, you know, the other thing that really gets me about this case is that she's never been identified. They have her DNA on record. They have her fingerprints on record. They have her dental record. But you would think that somebody somewhere would have a record of this woman, right? Especially with all that information. And it was the 90s. It's not like this is like the bad version of all those things from the 50s, right?
Yeah.
It's the 90s. It's
you would think that information would be spread a little easier.
Well, yeah, the thing about it is like say with their DNA, you still have to find somebody that to match her to.
Sure, but
Somebody
things
has
like
to-
fingerprints, though, right?
Fingerprints. Well, she was probably never arrested or fingerprinted, so right.
That's a good point.
I guess.
There's only, I mean, people think in this day and age, we get fingerprinted more often than people did 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You got to go to the bank, you got to give a fingerprint for certain checks or for jobs
Mm-hmm.
or for whatever, where as before, I think it was, like Joe said, if you were booked into the system
Mm-hmm.
for a variety of reasons, or if you had some high security clearance job,
Mm-hmm.
they'd have your fingerprints on file, but otherwise they're not there.
I guess that's true. I don't think about that. You go get a job and they say, okay, we got to get your fingerprints.
Uh-huh.
And that's just normal discourse these days.
Today it is,
But
yeah.
I guess that's fair that that's fairly new.
Yeah. So
And dental records, yeah. 'cause-
Yeah, I mean, it's, unless you have somebody that you're trying to match it to, it's like a needle in a haystack. Same
Yeah.
with DNA. So,
Yeah.
so someday if somebody comes forward and says, "Hey, we think this might be our Aunt Nettie" or something like that, then you can use the DNA then to solve the whole problem.
Yeah, but that's about it, huh?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
I was so on it.
Ah, no worries.
So there are... Oh, I guess the other thing I should mention is that pretty much nobody thinks she was a drifter. Though she was likely not from that area, people don't think that she was just like a vagrant that happened along in this area. Everybody seems to think that it was fairly intentional that she traveled to this spot and died there.
Yeah, I don't think, for example, the jewelry, I don't think your typical homeless person has, expensive 14-karat gold jade
Yeah, I don't think
rings
so
on their
either.
fingers.
No, not
Yeah.
typically.
And I don't think that most people donate things like a 14-karat jade ring to Goodwill.
Yeah.
I think
No,
that's
probably
the
not.
big hitch in that theory. Maybe it was her wedding ring or something, but most people, if you're going to get rid of that, you're going to pawn it at least.
Yeah.
Well, maybe she got it at a pawn shop. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Another really popular way to get rid of stuff like that is to have it stolen from you. That
Yeah.
happens a lot.
That's true. That's definitely true. And the other thing is, how did she get to the cemetery? Mm-hmm. Did she take a cab? So don't you think that like a cabbie would remember if he gave a ride to a woman who had like a Christmas tree with her?
Oh yeah, but there's two things. She had a backpack. The backpack was big enough to hold the 8-inch tall Christmas tree. But also,
Yeah,
she
that's
might
true.
have also gotten the Christmas tree at the cemetery. If somebody came in and put a little Christmas tree on their child's grave, for example,
That's true.
because it was that time of year, and
Yeah.
she might have decided, oh, that's kind of cheery. I'm going to go grab that one, lay it next to me while I kill myself.
Yeah. Yeah, well, she did a lot of weird things while she killed herself.
Well, and how big is this town? Do you know the approximate population?
And it was inconclusive. Like I did Googling on bus lines between Annandale and Fairfax,
That's
Virginia.
exactly where I was going. Is
Yeah.
there any kind of public transportation in the area?
Yeah, and I was not able to establish the existence. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I was not able to establish it, and that was just a government website. There might be private lines that run too, but I couldn't find any indication that there's a line that runs between those two towns, for example.
Sure.
But doesn't mean they don't. It's a fairly populous part of the country, and I would think there would be some sort of transportation options. But
Yeah, or rail. But
Or
and
a
and I
cab.
don't know how close proximity this cemetery is to a rail station.
I looked at the Google map of it and everything, and the aerials and everything, and I saw there are plenty of roads around there, major thoroughfares, but no rail lines to speak of.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's going to walk, take a cab, maybe a bicycle.
Oh, a bicycle.
Probably not a bicycle.
Why do we always forget about bicycles?
I know.
They're antiquated.
No.
Yeah.
No, we live in Portland. They're everywhere,
Yeah.
just like typewriters.
So there are a couple theories. There are some that are really interesting, some that are boring and mundane. All of them are equally viable at this point.
Okay.
Truly. I mean, unfortunately, given the information that we have, everything is kind of on the same playing field.
Okay, let's have it.
So one of the first fairly mundane theories is that she was a cancer patient that had gone into relapse and was just tired of fighting. It would help explain the do not resuscitate. And people get there from the fact that in the picture of her, her hair is very short, and they say that it reminds them of somebody who had gone through chemo and their hair was growing back. I don't put a lot of stock into that theory. A woman of her age, from the time period that she grew up in, a lot of older women cut their hair short.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Especially of that age.
Yeah, it's too bad I don't know how thorough the autopsy was. You would think that.
There was no autopsy.
I thought there was, because I had read that in Virginia it's required when there's a suicide. It's required to have a suicide, or to have an
Everything that I
autopsy.
found said that they honored her request for no autopsy. All I know, I haven't done my research on like the Virginia law on autopsies and suicide,
yeah.
but as far as I know, and as far as everybody on the internet talking about this knows, and according to the official report, they honored her no request.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. But we'll
Which
talk about
makes
that.
this is a great segue into one of the other theories that there is that this was actually a murder.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
That's actually what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Is that it was a murder?
Wait. Flesh this out a little bit for me.
Yeah, so, I mean, what a better way to get away with murder, right? You take somebody out into, like, this kind of weird environment, okay? And, I don't know, or maybe she was meeting somebody, or maybe, there's a lot of different scenarios in which this plays out, but essentially what happens is you kill this woman somehow, and then you leave $100 behind with a note that says, oh, by the way, don't perform an autopsy. And then you leave and they don't perform an autopsy and you get away scot-free.
Yeah.
Maybe you poisoned her. Maybe you injected her with poison and then fed booze to her and Valium before she actually died. She dies, you wrap a thing around her head, but I don't know.
Well, I was just going to say it's more plausible to me to believe that somebody could give her booze and Valium, and maybe even mix the Valium in with the booze, so she's not even aware that she's taking Valium. And then when she passes out or goes to sleep because of that, you just lay her out nicely and tie the plastic bag over her head, and she suffocates. And to me, that's more plausible than somebody getting really high on Valium and booze and then wrapping a plastic bag around their own head.
That's very nefarious.
I would say so.
And why do you always go there? Why is it always
know.
you
I
that
know.
goes to this?
Murder.
Yeah,
I know.
you're all about
And
murder.
so-
This doesn't make me feel very comfortable.
No. I'm sad that I'm the one sitting next to him today. It
Yep.
scares me.
Yeah.
So, and then just for the fun of it, of course, you can plant a lot of mysterious clues around, like a Jeff Foxworthy tape.
So, okay, you're just like feeding into all of my theories today. It's
Yeah.
fine. So that's actually one of the other theories, is that this woman was really like an amateur sleuth herself, decided she didn't want to live anymore for whatever reason. None of the thing about all these theories is that none of them are like really well fleshed out. Like all of them are like,
These are just people
They just-
coming up with their own ideas.
yeah, and they just kind of pertain to like one aspect. Nothing explains the whole thing.
Well, none of this stuff is
really.
connected, so I can
Right.
understand why.
So the theory is that she was an amateur sleuth of some kind, or knew somebody who was an amateur sleuth, or whatever, and decided, I'm going to kill myself and totally plan a lot of weird stuff around me, and it's going to, or it's going to be clues. Maybe it was like all part of an elaborate something. The person who was supposed to get the message got the message, right? And I mean, we've kind of talked about ideas like this before with
like the guy in
Australia, yeah,
The guy
that like may have faked a UFO sighting because he was a UFO enthusiast, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think there are people like this, certainly in life. Who knows if that's what this is? or
like
not.
Tom and Shoot or whatever his name was. I'm sure he was the same way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You do think that about him.
Yeah,
I know
but
you do.
although the problem I have with this theory is it's that if I were so inclined and I wanted to kill myself, what I would do is I would leave a lot of really strange clues, and I would kill myself, but I would make it look like murder. And then my murder would be an enduring mystery, and my name would be attached to it, so my name would be all over the internet. I wouldn't just be John Doe.
Right, so
Yeah.
that was, I guess, one of the other things that people were talking about, or at least that I think with this whole thing, is that if you're just leaving a fun mystery behind, why hide your identity? Why not take credit for it?
Yeah.
Because the part of the mystery is that you don't know who she is. If they knew who she was, but she left all these strange things behind. Why did she have the Christmas tree? Why did she have the Jeff Foxworthy tape and Monty Python? Well, that would just be an odd footnote in her file.
Oh, it's true.
Nobody would say, "Oh, well, you remember Marge? Marge, had all these things." No, and why did she do that? That would not pique people's interest enough because there's a larger mystery here, which is who is she? Why she had the Holy Grail? Small mystery, low on the list.
Yeah.
The Christmas tree, all that stuff. But actually, what this reminds me of more than anything is the Da Vinci Code. Did you guys ever read that?
Oh
book?
Yeah.
I did.
And you remember that, like at the beginning, the museum curator has been shot or stabbed or whatever, and he's dying, but he quickly arranges his body in a strange way. He was pointing at various paintings and stuff like that, and left clues for Tom Hanks to decipher the mystery of what he was trying to tell them.
Right.
Maybe this is the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just suicide letter in and of itself. Right. With that.
Only the right person would know.
Right. The
what-
people that really were important to her would know what was going on, and they would say, "Okay, we don't need to tell everybody the answer. Fine." Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe,
It's
I don't
one
know.
of the many.
Another question, there's got to be somebody on the internet who's gotten a copy of that Jeff Foxworthy tape and played it backwards and listened to it.
That wasn't the one she was listening to when she.
She was
killed
listening to
herself, though. It was
the
other one.
2,000-year-old man one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'd play all this stuff backwards, and I'm sure the answer will be there.
Yeah, I think probably that's true.
All right.
So the next theory is my favorite one. I like it a lot.
Is that the Chupacabra one?
No, it's not. It's
damn.
the Marjorie West connection. So Marjorie West is
Was.
a mystery in and unto herself. And I don't think that we need to really go into a lot of details, but suffice to say that she's a girl who is still classified as endangered missing. She's not been classified as presumed dead yet, which is interesting. She was born in 1933 and disappeared in 1938 when she was 4 years old. And so here are the pictures of her.
That's a long time to be just listed
Just
as
endangered,
missing endangered.
Yeah, so especially look at this one, right? This is a very cute little girl. We'll post these pictures, of course. She looks a little bit like Shirley Temple. She's got red curly hair and blue eyes. And then look at the Jane Doe picture again. I feel like they look a lot alike. I feel like their jawlines are very similar. They've got very similar colored hair and textured hair. I can't tell what color this woman's eyes are, but I feel they look very similar. Do you see it?
Well, yeah,
It's hard.
Not a
It's
lot,
hard
but
because it's like 60 years difference,
it's 60
right?
years difference. And here's the other thing that bugs me is that I haven't seen a photo of our Jane Doe. What you have there is a reconstruction of what she looks like. So it's not an actual photo of her. That makes it a little hard to decide if that's 100% accurate to apply against a photograph.
and that's fair. I guess I just assume it's like a fairly accurate reconstruction.
Well, and I'm sure that it is relatively or fairly accurate. That's a good word to use. But it's not a photograph. So
that's true, but the point of this is that it looks as close as they could possibly get to what she looks like for identification purposes.
Well, now, the thing about it is, what's Marjorie's last name?
West.
Marjorie West. If somebody really wanted to check this out, it'd be fairly easy to do because she still has, I'm sure, living relatives.
Yes.
And
yeah.
it would be easy to do a DNA check and actually find out. that
Yeah,
she's
so
related to
that's
these
one of the
people.
things, because this is just an internet theory. It doesn't seem like the authorities are really buying it, which is fair.
Yeah.
And DNA tests are kind of expensive. I
Yeah.
mean, Maury does them all the time, but
Yeah, I think, if maybe...
but she has a living sister that they use to show like what she might look like because they say they looked a lot alike. But there's a picture of her when she like a year after Marjorie disappeared, and I don't think they look that much alike at all.
I don't think
the
they
pictures
do
of that
either.
little girl and this woman. I
But
don't
she
think
was
they look.
she was older too, wasn't she?
A couple of years, yeah. Marjorie disappeared in 1938. She would have been 63 in 1996, which is the approximate age they gave for this woman. They look a lot alike. She was found in the infant place, which a lot of people and I kind of agree that it could be a sort of mourning for her own lost childhood, whatever happened to her.
How old was Marjorie when she disappeared?
4.
Well, it's pretty well known that children that are that young that get abducted tend to not remember their families.
Sure.
So unless she, went through years of psychotherapy or what is the other one, hypnosis or something, I hate to poo-poo this on you, but that seems like a big reach to me.
I guess, although I wouldn't say that hypnosis and psychotherapy are the only way that you can unearth hidden memories.
True, but
how many cases are there where people come forward and say, I just remembered suddenly that, this priest was doing bad things to me,
and
just totally of my own
right.
volition.
That does happen.
So, I think it's a fairly compelling theory that maybe, she went on and had her own life and whatever happened, and that's fine. And then, in her 60s was suddenly like, oh my gosh.
But, I have 2 problems with this theory. Number one is that people, for some reason, seem to think there might be a connection, but to me it's like an amazing coincidence that we've got these 2 mysteries that bookending this person's life. That's kind of and the other thing. There's
not really any good theories on what happened to her. Actually,
yeah, but she lived for another 59 years.
Yeah.
After she was abducted.
Yeah.
And that time she had to have formed relationships with people. People would know her. So some of those people at least would have, you would think, reported her missing.
Yeah, you would think that.
Yeah,
but you would think that anybody would report somebody missing.
And again,
right?
The crowning mystery in this whole thing is nobody knows, and nobody seems to have said, "Oh, this lady went missing, and this is who she is."
Yeah.
There's some ways to do it. I mean, there's people out there, like, say, if her husband had died, say, and they'd had no kids, or maybe their kids had died or whatever, and they didn't have too many remaining family or friends or anything like that, and she decided to just go off and kill herself. She could just say something on the order of, I'm going to move back to the East Coast and live with my relatives, so throw me a going-away party, and I'm going to miss you guys, and goodbye, and I'll send you a postcard once in a while. And then just leave, and nobody knows where you've gone to.
Everybody goes, why didn't you write?
Everybody loses touch, but none of those people are going to file a missing persons report just because you haven't sent them a letter recently.
That's true. You're just reading ahead is what's happening here on our theory.
Were you going to talk about that?
No. I was going to talk about my other favorite theory that people have, which I think is probably the most explanatory of them all.
Okay.
63, that's about when husbands start to pass away.
Yep.
And one of the things that medical examiners noticed, because while they did not do an invasive autopsy, they did examine her body. Mm-hmm. She had a C-section scar, so she did have children at one point. So it's this sort of poetic idea of they didn't have any family, really. She had her husband, they had a baby, and it died. She was fine with it as long as he was alive. They tried again and again and again. It didn't happen. This is a really fleshed out story, let's be honest.
Yeah,
This is embellishing.
I'm embellishing,
a little bit.
But her husband dies. She's depressed about that and relapses into depression about her dead baby 30-odd years ago and decides to kill herself, has one last Christmas with the family, and then kills herself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I can see some credence in that. Now, she's in the children's section because she lost a child. Mm-hmm. I don't know per se that I would follow along with that. I mean, it's quite plausible that obviously she's got the scar, so she had at least one child. Mm-hmm. Might not have died as a baby or a toddler. It might have grown up to be an adult who then died as a young adult.
That's true, although what I know about parents is that to them, their baby is always a baby.
Right. And so but what I'm saying, or what I'm getting at, is her being in that section of the graveyard is not necessarily indicative of she lost her child while it was a infant.
That's true, but I also agree with that. I don't necessarily think it was like baby died, whatever.
Yeah.
That was my embellishment on that story.
Okay, I'm just
so let's just
sure.
say, all right, they had a kid and it died
at some point.
At some point.
I think it's more plausible to believe that it might be that was just the remotest corner of the cemetery, or the darkest with the least street lighting, and that her murderers decided that would be the optimal place to do her in.
Joe's sure it's a murder.
Joe is positive it's a murder.
He's really sure.
He is.
I'm out of theories.
This one, it's odd. The only thing that I can think of the stories that we've been given that I like is the amateur sleuth angle.
Yeah.
It's the only one that I'm like, well, I could see that one happen.
Of course you do.
Of course I do.
Of course. That makes sense to me. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about, I like the Marjorie one. And I recognize that I pretty much only like that for like the really poetic symmetry that it gives, that this girl disappears and then is also, dies in mysterious circumstances. They're nice bookends. Is it really that feasible? Probably not, no. But, this is one of those stories that you kind of get to pick whatever theory you like, because chances are good it's never going to be solved. And, for me to believe in my heart, probably neither of these mysteries are going to be solved, so it's very easy for me to be able to say, oh no, that's totally what happened there, and nobody's really ever going to be able to tell me otherwise, so...
There you go.
So cool.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, so that's how I feel about it.
So anyway, to solve the mystery, yes, her name really is Jane Doe.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, that's my favorite joke that I came across was that people were like, wow, maybe her name was actually Jane Doe. I mean, somebody's got to be named Jane Doe, right?
There are a bunch of real Jane Does out there.
Actually, let me get my phone book. Hang on.
Yeah. I guess that's kind of it. This is one of those ones. I guess I've been kind of on a streak of like kind of unsolvable mysteries.
Yeah, that's like
my like wheelhouse right now.
Yeah,
a bunch of them are like that. But it's okay.
You need to come up with ones that we can actually solve, though.
Okay, next week maybe.
But I did think we've pretty definitively established this was indeed a murder.
All right.
No, I don't think so. So if you'd like to see the pictures that we were talking about and debating, they're going to, of course, be on the website. That's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can also listen to our show there. Or you can listen to our show on iTunes, which you are probably doing. If you are doing that, if you would take the time to give us a rating and a comment, it's much appreciated. I know, I don't rate or comment any of the podcasts I listen to, so it's a big ask, but just do it for me, because we're friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Do it for me, too.
So, you can also stream us on Stitcher if you forget to download and you're just craving some Thinking Sideways, because I know all of you are.
Hell yeah.
Constantly
Absolutely.
Going through, withdrawal
Millions
all
of
the
people.
time. Like us on Facebook, and you can always send us an email if you have theories about this, if you just want to share something, if you have story ideas. thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com, and I think we actually have a couple
we do.
things to share off of our
People actually send us all kinds of mail, and occasionally we pick a few good ones off the top of the heap.
There are a couple really good ones this week, actually. So do you want to go first?
No, cool. I totally got this one. So we got an email from a guy named Denzel who lives down in Stockton, California.
Denzel the actor. Denzel Washington.
I wish it was,
Yeah.
but no, it's not.
No.
But he says, what's up, TSP? I love that we've already got an abbreviation.
TSP.
Yeah, TSP.
Yeah, mine has also got a great salutation. So.
Yes. But he says he's a freelance illustrator, and so he spends his job every day is sitting down and doing illustrations, and so he's listening to headphones. We are the perfect outlet for that, so we can concentrate on something else.
I was gonna say good mindless listening. Yeah.
Wait, is that a backhanded compliment?
Yeah.
But he did share with us a little something funny, and I know I shared this with you, Joe, and I know you enjoyed this. He was saying that he was listening to the Dyatlov Pass incident episode. Let me go ahead and get this right. I still remember my favorite joke. Joe said it was the chupacabra who opened the tent, lit a cigarette, stood there. The hikers, struck with fear of secondhand smoke, ripped their way out of the tent and fled.
Yeah.
That was a good joke. Yeah,
that was a good joke. He evidently laughed so hard he almost messed up his work. So way to go, causing the guy more work.
Hey, thanks, Denzel. I'm glad you appreciate it.
He enjoyed it, and he had some interesting theories about what else could have caused it, and we went back and forth on a couple emails, and he's given us a couple of story ideas, which I really like, which are not things that we'd normally do, but we're definitely going to have to look into some of these. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
and
think
they
they're
seem
gonna be
like
good.
they seem like they're going to be big endeavors.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're not going to be easy, but I think they're going to be
It's
fun.
going to be worth it.
Yeah.
For sure. Well,
It's going to require like jetting to Europe. It's going to be kind of like the Da Vinci Code.
Yes.
Yeah.
we're on the Da Vinci. Did you like watch that movie recently? Or?
No, actually, I never watched the movie. I read the book.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
How ignorant of me to imply that you were watching a movie.
I did both.
yeah.
So
So-
my listener mail that I like is from a woman named Nancy, and she says, "Hello, team. You guys, we're a team."
We are the team.
Our
Yeah.
team awesome.
So she really likes our podcast too, because everybody
Hey,
really
thanks,
likes our
Nancy.
podcast. But she had some things to say about Gulbekki Tepe.